Hello, everybody. We are glad that you're here tonight. This is about our 200th broadcast. We've had so many different broadcasts over the last 4+ years. We've been doing this since 2016 with my sidekick, H.B. Bell, who was my producer for 4 years. The pandemic really made a shift in how we do things now. And so basically what I've done is I've picked up and added to those 200 episodes. And I've said to everybody, hey, let's reach out to some students. Let's reach out to some folks that are doing work in various places. Hear from a lot of different voices, and that's what I was really interested in when we first started this a few weeks ago with some of my students. So tonight we have a great honor and privilege to have with us Trevor Crenshaw, Pastor Trevor Crenshaw from Florence, Alabama. Trevor, thanks so much for taking the time tonight.
Thank you for having me on, Dr. Echo. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm just blessed to be a part of this. And I'm trying to take all of this in because you know how I feel about you and how you've helped me, not over the years because we haven't known one another that long, but just in a short period of time, how you impacted my life.
Well, thank you. Why don't you just mention to people how we know each other?
We met at LBC, Lancaster Bible College and Capital Seminary. It was my first semester in residency, my first semester and also residency, but we actually have to travel to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and actually be on campus for a whole week. And I think I was taking you for the theology class that we have to take, and got a chance to meet you in person. And we had already connected somewhat through the interaction in our classes and the online writing that we have to do in the online posts. And I just made it my business to stay connected with you. And I think you may have done the same. And plus, we also have a connection through our children in the sense of you sharing with me about your son, me sharing with you about my daughter and how you helped me through that first semester, which toward the end, the PhD program is rigorous in itself, but then I had some added situations to come about toward the end of the semester. And Dr. Echo, you were God sent in that moment, and you really helped me to get through that first semester.
I was really pleased to have the opportunity. And, quite frankly, I think about folks like yourself, great students like yourself, who, you're the next generation. And you have some tremendous abilities, and I have to be a little proud about what you bring to the table here tonight. And maybe this is the first thing we can talk about is your writing. I think that's the thing that stood out to me first, because we in the seminary that we're teaching at, that Trevor and I are talking about, we do pre and post work online. So 7 weeks or so before, 7 weeks or so after, and then we meet face to face. But I'll tell you, Trevor, the thing that stood out to me immediately was how well you write. It just amazed me at your proclivity for that. So why don't you talk about writing a little bit, because that's part of what we wanted to chat about tonight.
Well, one of the first things I would say is it's ironic that you would hone in on my writing, because that's one of the things that I had to deal with. And Dr. Gushkin and I talked about that, the program director. I don't know if I told you this or not, but when we were at the residency, the last day, I think one of the last days, I caught him in the parking lot. And I said, "Why did you let me in the program?" And he said, "One of the things you got to do is get over the imposter syndrome." And I had to find out, what exactly are you talking about? And did a little digging, got a clear understanding of the imposter syndrome. And now I truly understand why I'm in the program. I was writing this semester, and it really hit me, the idea of scholarship. I was in this semester, and Dr. Keener responded in one of the posts, and he said, "This is good scholarly writing." And I asked my uncle about that, and he said, "You do know that you would not be in the program were you not a scholar."
That's right.
So all of that started weighing on me, and I started to realize more and more actually where I am, why I'm here, and what my purpose is.
Mm.
And so for me, the transition happened just like Dr. Gushikin said it would. There would be a big learning curve going from the MDiv to the PhD. And that's actually how it has transpired. He said, you're gonna have to learn that PhD writing is different from MDiv writing. And that's what I had to learn. Three major things for me: the research, the critical thinking, and the actual writing. You got to do the research. That's what I had to learn. You have to think critically, and you have to do the writing. I mean, for me, one of the things that helped me was Bloom's taxonomy.
Okay.
Is classification, and learning that PhD is at the highest level of that taxonomy, and that's creating. Week after week after week, you have to create. It's just something that you have to do.
Yes. And you're really good at it. Again, just to brag on you a little bit, again, you just sent me a paper here recently. In fact, you were showing it to me just a moment ago. And the scholarly writing, perhaps, that was being spoken of earlier, you just blew me away with this writing, man. This paper is really well done. And one of your profs said this needs to be submitted for publication.
Yeah, it was a blessing for me, because the first semester I had my struggles. As I said, I really had my struggles trying to overcome that learning curve. And then I'm thankful for Dr. Gushikin. Everything that he said came to pass. I'm thankful for you and the examples that you all provided. The actual example papers. I mean, you gave us copies of, portion of your dissertation. That was very helpful, because it helped to establish what we were trying to get to. And just to hear the encouragement from you all that it can be done, and then to actually start doing it and start learning. The cohort members that I have, that has been a blessing. Have a couple of people in there who are real good at it.
Yeah.
And being able to reach out to them, because you all told us the only way you're going to get through this is that you have to utilize your cohort members. And that's what I've been doing. There are people who may know things that I don't know, who can do it better than I can. And so I don't throw that to the side. I don't overlook that. I utilize it. And in doing that, it's helped me to develop in the PhD program, especially in the research and writing area.
That's fantastic. The kinds of things that you're writing too they're not the kind of thing that only scholars would be concerned about. So let's talk a little bit about the kinds of interests and issues that you're interested in, and talk to people about what it is that you've been writing about and why you think that's really rubber meets the road kind of stuff, everyday kinds of concerns.
I mean, for me in the PhD program, you remember Dr. Gushikin told us, he said your dissertation is going to have three legs. You got the leadership, you got the social science, and you also have the theological leg. And so that's what we've been working on. First semester, we dealt with leadership leg, and we dealt with theological leg. And this semester, we had to deal with the social science leg of the dissertation, as far as the pre-writing, getting us ready for that. And that's been a blessing, not only to me as a PhD student, but also to the church that I pastor. I just got out of a Bible study. We have 2 Bible studies on Wednesday. And so we have midday Bible study. We also have evening Bible study. And both of those Bible study sessions, we were actually dealing with some issues that come out of a social science book, Failure Nerve by Edward Freeman. And we were talking about emotional triangulation. I got introduced to that in the PhD program, but I was able to incorporate that into our church so that our members can begin to understand very clearly something that I had to understand, is that all truth is God's truth.
Yes.
And because of that, we can take something like this and, incorporate it into what we're doing, and also see how this fits into a biblical context.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it's really powerful and important as you begin to think differently, and specifically, let's just call it thinking Christianly. As Christians, we think distinctively different from everybody else. So we can take the social science, whatever the social science is, and we can look at that through the lens of Scripture and then begin to allow those things to permeate and synthesize with each other. And man, you just really do that well.
Well, and I thank God for that. I have to give God all the praise for that. As I said, I had to initially get over this thing of, am I really supposed to be here? Am I really supposed to be in the PhD program? And as I've gone along, I'm starting to see more and more, this is where I'm supposed to be. Yep. But to what you said, Dr. Keener really challenged us on that in that social science area. Dr. Cushman did too as well. And, I know this is social science, but you have to be able to take this and be able to look at it through a Christian worldview and in a biblical context. So all the things that we were writing for Dr. Keener, we had to also incorporate a biblical theological perspective on that. So if we're talking about emotional triangulation, we had to go to the scriptures. And just for an example, I looked at how in the Garden of Gethsemane, Judas comes in, and there's this potential for Judas to triangulate Jesus Christ. And in addition to Judas doing that, it was an opportunity for Peter to try to do the same thing, to triangulate Jesus Christ. But he was so good at regulating his emotions and self-differentiating that Judas could not sabotage his emotional stability, and neither could Peter.
That's amazing stuff. And the way you've explained it and expressed it through the life and work of Jesus is really phenomenal. You mentioned this connection to the pastorate and your Bible studies and so on. I'm really interested to ask you this question about the folks that you pastor and shepherd. How do they view your PhD studies, and how do they see it as benefiting them?
It's mixed emotions. That's something that I had to deal with. Some people initially were like, do you have to? That's not a type of response that you really would like. You really would like everyone to just jump on board real quick and say, go do this, go get the PhD. But some people don't understand the significance of how a PhD can be a game changer.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, Dr. Echo, I knew it was a game changer, but I'm starting to understand more and more what you all said. And that is, you get this PhD, you can help change the world for another 100 years.
Right. And I really believe that. And for somebody like you, especially, I'm just thrilled to have you in the program. I think there's all kinds of positives that are going to come out of this for you. And if we could just kind of dream for a minute, why don't you just tell everybody what it is that you'd like to do in the future?
One of the things is continue pastoring, but I do have my eye on the administrative side of a college institution of higher learning. Vice president, president, maybe one day, but I'm starting to see more and more now how a PhD, one of the things, let me say this, my uncle used to always tell me, and I have to give him props, Reverend Dr. Jotham White, my father in the ministry, he used to always say, Trevor, one of the things that your education is going to do is it's going to help you to think, and it's really going to help you to think well.
Yeah.
And that's what it has done. And so what PhD does for me is it helps me to think more critically about the things that I have to deal with on an everyday basis. To be honest with you, when we were dealing, as we've been dealing with failure of nerve and emotional triangulation, it has even helped me in my own family.
Wow, that's really great stuff. I just want you to know I've gotten a few comments here. This one from a student of mine from Michigan, Cammie. She wants you to know she's saying amen to everything you've got going on there. And you should also notice this person. Notice who else shows up here. Sherry.
Sherry Bell.
Wonderful stuff. So great to hear the valuable things you're saying. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Hey, Sherry, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We're grateful for this. And I should tell you that, we've got an awful lot of folks watching us right now, and so many more that will actually watch the archived version of this. But I'm grateful to hear that you're, you're connected to the people in your pastorate. The people there really care deeply about your education so that you can further educate them. I think that's a really powerful idea. Also tell people a little bit about what you do on the side. And if I could say on the side, I mean, you're teaching in different ways, right? So tell people about other ways that you teach and where you teach.
So since 2015, I have been an adjunct professor at Huntsville Bible College. That's about an hour, 30 minutes drive from Florence. Normally I teach on Mondays, teach a class on campus, also a class online. But when the pandemic hit, that caused the campus classes to move to online.
Mm-hmm.
And so, last semester while I'm doing the PhD work, I'm also having to do all of my classes online and also in Zoom sessions.
Mm.
And it was hectic. Yeah, I can tell you, my wife is glad to have her husband back right now. I'm enjoying getting up at 5:30 in the morning, us going for walks, just talking, taking time to sabbatical.
Yeah, good for you.
For just a little while before it all starts back up again.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things that I do. And then I do diversity and cultural wellness training for our local police department, and always take joy in that and meeting the new cadets. And I take joy in that because my father was a policeman in Florence for 20 years.
Wonderful.
So even though I didn't have a desire to be a policeman, I always tell the cadets, this is my way to give back to the community. One of the ways is by, even though I wasn't a policeman, I'm still connected to the police department, and I feel like I'm walking in my father's legacy.
That's really cool, man. I hadn't heard that from you before, so it's really kind of nice to learn something else about you here tonight. And I should show you this. Our good friend David has shown up tonight as well. And
David Musoli.
Yeah, man. So I just wanted to make sure that you saw that. Hope Hampton is watching as well, just so you know that.
Hope Hampton, that's the deacon ministry leader here at the church.
There you go. So we've got all kinds of comments coming in. Cammie's writing some other great stuff here. Appreciate you watching again, Cammie. Thanks for that. I wanted to ask you, since you're talking about taking walks with your wife, one of the things we wanted to briefly talk about tonight was the issue of marriage. And you can take that wherever you want to go in terms of scholarship and what it means to do this. Be married and go to school and all the things that you do. Talk a little bit about that.
So in undergrad, I didn't have balance, and that's one of the things that I would say. I'm oftentimes thinking about, my legacy and what would I say to a younger me, or a younger Trevor that's just starting out, pastoring and what have you, starting out with his academics. And I would say, make sure you have balance, because in undergrad, I didn't. And good friend of ours, still connected to this husband and wife team, came over to the house. And I was deep in my studies at the time, trying to get my undergrad. And my friend's wife said, you all come in the kitchen. And she said, you all stand beside one another. And she said, there's a dark figure in between you all. And she said, you all need to come together. She said, Trevor, I feel like you are moving away from Tia. I didn't want to hear all of that at the time, but it was one of the best things that could have happened, because it helped me to start putting in perspective, balance between my academics, my family, and my wife and my children. Didn't get perfect at it, but did get a lot better at it. And so, yeah, you got to have that balance. But what I tell people in premarital counseling is I give them an acronym that I give all couples, and it's called TEAM, TEAM. And the first thing you want to do is make sure you talk, and don't talk at one another, but talk to one another. And you got to cultivate that through good, open communication. I always tell them, don't ever let the communication line shut down. Encourage one another. Don't forget to encourage one another, demonstrate your love for the other person, because you never know when the other person may need a word of encouragement. Appreciate one another. Make sure you let your spouse know how significant they are in your life. Mature. Make sure you mature together. One of the things, I've been with my wife since high school.
Oh, wow.
I was in the 11th grade. She was in the ninth grade. And so we've been together. Our oldest son is about to be 33. So we've been together over 30 years. We've been married
Hmm.
27 years. And what I tell people is that we grew up together. We matured together. We learned life together. We learn one another together. And you got to be able to do that within your marriage. Every day I want to discover something new about my wife. So I ask her, how did your day go? Because I can't take for granted that I know everything about it, even though we've been together for over 30 years. She's constantly taking on new experiences. Let me
Hmm.
be quiet because I could talk about that all day.
Oh, that's great, man. I really appreciate that a lot. There's all kinds of folks that are chiming in here. We've got an S. Beckwith that's emphasizing an informative pastor. I'm not sure if that's somebody from your church. Kimberly Johnson Garner, thanks for sharing, Pastor.
One of the
Um,
social ministers.
yeah, there you go. Uh, Again, from Cami, she emphasizes that communication can be really hard, but it's so important. Um, Here you have perhaps somebody else from your church.
Yes,
Uh,
that's one of the secretaries of the church.
there you go. So all kinds of folks are watching here, and we're really grateful for you all connecting here with us tonight. I wanted to make sure also we've been talking about writing and scholarship. We've been talking about school, pastoral ministry, and you told us something about your dad, which I hadn't heard before, which is really cool. All kinds of stuff about marriage. Let's talk a little bit about you as an individual person. As you think about your role going forward, you mentioned legacy a moment. This is what's going through my mind. You mentioned legacy a moment ago. I was thinking, what is it that you want to leave? So if you would summarize for people, what impact you want to leave behind? What is it that you would say?
That's my legacy right there.
There you go.
And it
That's
is
the book, by the way. You need to get one of those from Trevor.
that's my legacy. When I sat down and I wrote this book, it wasn't something scholarly that I wanted to do. I just wanted to share out of my experience
Mm-hmm.
and leave a legacy for my family, for my children, for my community, and for others who would read the book. And it's got two main parts to it: DWC, and it's two main acronyms. One is DWC. I wear these on bracelets every day. Two bracelets.
Okay.
DWC.
Okay.
Do well consistently. Ecclesiastes 9 and 10. Whatever you do it well. And so that's part of who I am. I want to make sure that whatever I do it well and I do it consistently. One of the meetings that I was in today was a debriefing from our live stream worship on Sunday mornings. That meeting lasted almost 2 hours. What was the bulk of our conversation? Consistency.
Mm,
I've discovered that people can deal with your mistakes and sometimes your flaws, but what people love more than anything is consistency.
mm.
Yeah, when you go to a restaurant and you order your favorite meal, you want consistency. When Dr. Mark Eckel goes to a movie and he's watching it and he know how he is about movies, he wants to see consistency. If not, everybody in the theater is going to know that there's a lack of consistency.
That's great. Yeah, the issue of consistency and highlighting your book there really matters, I think, to people. There's a real need, I think, just generally in life. I would imagine you see the same thing that if your life is fragmented and your thinking is fragmented, then there won't be any consistency.
Yeah, so that's the second part to the book. That's free. And that acronym stands for, you want to focus on the hook in the book. Like a lot of young kids have these hooks in rap songs. They know the hook. And so the hook is what's most important to the Lord. So you want to focus on what's most important to the Lord. You want to remember what's most important to the Lord. You want to expend energy in areas that are most important to the Lord. Then you want to go back and evaluate and see whether or not you've done that, which is most important to the Lord. So that helps me to do well consistently. That helps me to also live out 1 Corinthians 10:31, which is to glorify God in everything that I do.
Mm.
You were mentioning about, we talked about scholarship,
Yeah.
and how people here at the church feel about, me being in the PhD program. Well, I have a son in the ministry who just started his MDiv. And before he got accepted in the Moody Bible Institute, he had to read, in a course of 15 to 17 weeks, these books.
Wow.
So 2 of the books he had to read, answer questions. 3 of the books he had to write a reflection paper every week. And the testimony is, Pastor, I'm glad that you put me through that, because it really helped me to get prepared for this MDiv.
Mm.
And he testified in a meeting that we had not too long ago that I had with the associate ministers of the church, how rigorous the MDiv program is. And that's what I was trying to tell him and help him get prepared for it. But also told him, I'm proud of you, because you're walking in the legacy that I'm leaving behind. And that is, you have to strive for scholarship. It's imperative, especially within the African-American community. And you stress that to me all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm thrilled for your opportunities. I'm thrilled to know you. It's an honor to walk down the same path with you. And I have to say again about legacy, that legacy isn't what we leave behind so much, but who we leave behind.
And it's what we leave in people.
That's it. Yeah. It's always about the people, right?
Yeah.
Every single time. Well, this has been so enjoyable tonight to get to see you again, at least in this medium. We talk consistently, I think, but to have the opportunity to say this in front of all the folks that have been listening and watching here tonight, we're really grateful again for your attendance. There have been all kinds of other comments that have been made here. We're grateful for all of those. So thanks for being here. And please tell your friends that they might be able to pick up the archived copy of this on our Facebook page, the Comenius Institute Facebook page, but also on our YouTube page, Comenius YouTube. And also, I'm suspecting on your church page. I would imagine they're going to put it there as well. So I'm sure that we'll get lots and lots more hits on this. Trevor, any last words here tonight?
Yes, if I may say one thing from a pastoral perspective, if you are in church leadership, especially if you are a pastor, please make sure you take care of yourself. As you take care of the congregation and the flock, don't forget to take care of yourself. A good friend of mine, someone I think you all know well, wrote a book. And in that book, he talks about the need for sabbatical. And if you're not familiar with the book, it's called I Just Need Time to Think. written by Mark D. Eckel. And it's one of the best books that I've ever read from cover to cover. And I plan on going back through that book and refreshing myself in regards to the need to sabbatical and take time for yourself. You don't do anything, because how can you be good to the people when you can't even be good to yourself?
Yes.
Busyness is not the key. I'm here today to tell you, the end of that is burnout. I've been there. You don't want that.
Yes.
What you want is, you want to be like our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So his disciples, he said, let's go apart for a while. Let's get away from this.
Yes.
And what I read one time was this, and I'll let everybody go. You need to come apart before you come apart.
That's right. That's right. Well, I want you to know that we're getting all kinds of good lines here from folks that you might know. I think there you go. Here's another one from Melissa Williams. We've got here, wants to make sure that we get her name up there as well. Thanks for joining us here tonight. And then here's somebody else you might know.
Yes, that's one of the members of the church, Edward Rose. His wife's name.
There you go. So, all kinds of folks that have been here dropping by to offer comments. Wonderful. You obviously have a tremendous flock of folks there that think the world of you. So may the Lord continue to bless you, brother.
Dr. Eccles, thank you, man, for everything that you have done thus far in my life, because it has not only impacted my life, but it has impacted a lot of people's lives, and I'm sure there are more to be impacted.
Well, thanks for that, man. I appreciate it a lot. You've been listening to Warp and Woof radio interviews here, and also from the Comenius Institute, our sponsor. We've had over 200 of these episodes. We've been doing this this summer, interviewing some of our past students. Really grateful again for the opportunity to do that this evening with Trevor Crenshaw from Florence, Alabama, pastor there. Trevor, blessings on the evening, brother. Say hello to your good woman for us.
I most definitely will.
All right, man. See you next time, everybody.